fans, welcome back to another episode of You Missed Out. I've been gone for a few weeks, but we're back from our little break. My guest tonight, also goes as Jackson Fury. He's wrestled for Wrestle Center and just recently had his last match with IW at the IWK show in Tatamagouche. My guest is Jim Joyce. Jim?
Good to see you, bro.
Yeah, thanks for being on the show, man.
Thanks for having me, man.
I guess we'll start off with the IWK show. This was the second year you guys have had it.
Yeah.
So tell us a little about how the whole show came about.
Well, this one and the last one actually kind of happened as sort of last minute, like a whirlwind. I have a special needs niece who has quite a debilitating disorder, and my family for, I think this was, I'm not even sure how many years, maybe 6 or 7 years now, they've done an annual golf tournament for her, for the IWK, and it always gets a good draw and good turnout, and they raise a lot of money for it. And I was thinking perfect timing last year was, and selfishly it would have been fun to wrestle in my hometown, so let's see I wonder if I can just put some feelers out and put it together. And it really just kind of took on a life of its own. I contacted Jason Mosier, and he let me use his ring. And then I think Josh Stone was one of the first people that I reached out to. And he had mentioned Andre would be a good guy to work against. So we just kind of built it around that. So it was a lot of, can I put on a show? I was pretty nervous. So then I called the building, got the building, and then I put it a group message on Facebook telling that a lot of the boys that I want to do this charity show. And even when I think about it, I smile. Like, these guys were coming on for small percentages of their normal POs, and some guys were coming in for free. And I just couldn't believe how quickly it came together. And then I woke up one day and it was like the show day. So the ring got there. I even had a guy. It wasn't just the workers that came together to help out. Some of the boys from back home trying to figure out costs of transportation just from Halifax to Tatamagouche can beat up a lot of money.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So a friend of mine that I haven't really seen since high school, his name's Ryan Reese, and again he was there to help out this year. He drove all the way to Sydney Cape Breton to get a full-on covered-on trailer and drove it back. And then another friend of mine, Richard Duggan from Tatamagouche, they showed up to help me tear the ring down. A lot of the boys came as well. And then we fired the ring, the truck, and they all helped set it up. So it wasn't just the boys that kind of came together to make this happen. A lot of members of the community did as well. So it was, the first one was a really good go-around. Drew a really good house, which was phenomenal. The card itself was pretty good. Had some really talented workers. Plus we had some newer guys as well, myself included. But everybody went out and they worked their asses off.
Yeah.
That was the big thing. So I don't think anybody that was there left unhappy. So it kind of left a really good taste for wrestling in people's mouths. And a year later, some of the boys were talking about it, saying it was one of the funner shows that they had been on in the last year. So kind of had a different vibe than a lot of the shows that have been going on. And the only reason I say that is there was no pressure from promoters for television or to come off a certain way or things have to go a certain way. Everybody just kind of knew what their finishes were, and they were left to set up their own matches, and they went out and they tore the houses down. It was great. Everybody worked their ass off. So yeah, and then we can fast forward to this year. I wasn't sure if I had all intentions of doing it, but unfortunately I couldn't get a ring. And Kevin Tyler from IHW and I had talked a few times here and there about putting this together, and then we go a couple of weeks or a couple of months without talking about it, and then started getting right around to the middle of August, 1st of August I guess, and I couldn't get the building at all. It wasn't available. So put some pressure on, and then did get the building. It was almost the 11th hour as for advertising. And so we got the building, and Kevin said, let's do it. So I said, let's do it. And it went. It was, again, it was kind of a whirlwind, because it was, I had it in my mind it wasn't going to happen this year.
Right.
And then Kevin was all for it, so away we went.
Yeah. And I know there was definitely a want for it, because since last year's show, there's always been grumblings. I wonder if there's going to be the Tata show is going to come back. So it was definitely something that people were wanting to get back, and definitely want again for a third year.
And it's funny that happened, because when it came to putting it together, aside from, I was on the phone with I think everybody on that roster and a few guys at work about how do I do this?
Yeah.
You know, how do I put on a show? Because really, it was me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With some feelers and some advice. So I really flying by the seat of my pants. It was pretty stressful at the time, but again, it's all credit goes to the boys for giving me the right advice, pointing me in the right direction. So this year, when Kevin came on board, I mean, I put on one show, he put on hundreds.
Yeah.
So it was really nice to have that sort of guidance and to kind of, well, this is what you should do if you're going to do this. Don't waste your time doing this, but more focus on this. And yeah, it was like a well-oiled machine coming in and taking over for a confused, scared kid who's trying to fire a show together. But I'm just glad it left a good taste in everybody's mouth. Not just the people that paid the money to see it that year, but also, well, the boys.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. So yeah, so if we can, it's really cool. They came in and called a second annual with the promise of something happening again next year. Yeah, it might be just one of those little stress-free, fun shows to the boys to want to get on as opposed to, you know what I mean? So that, yeah, it's pretty exciting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So how did the relationship with you and IHW kind of come about? Was it they approached you? Was it you approaching them?
Well, that was just a worker always wanting to work for them. You know what I mean? Like that's with when you think about wrestling companies in the Maritimes, you know, Wrestling Center's one. Just because that's where I'd been the most. I was with UCW before that, and then started with Wrestling Center, and that's just kind of a natural progression. But in the back of my mind, and every worker knows around here, there's two companies that really stand out first and foremost, and that's Red Rock Wrestling, PEI with Mike Hughes, and IHW. And at the time, when Wrestling Center first came about, and Chuck was doing his thing with UCW, IHW was primarily just New Brunswick, so it was just one of those, want to get that feather in my cap and get on there. So I'd always kind of here and there threw out feelers to Kevin and seeing what I could do about possibly getting on one of those shows. And then I started watching their shows and realizing that's some pretty high caliber wrestling. So it's not an easy, definitely not an easy nut to crack, you know, to get in there. It's an awesome company with awesome guys, and there's very limited spots on a roster.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
And not thinking I'm one of the best or even really a good worker, so I didn't. You know, kind of looking back, your self-esteem takes a little. I don't know if I'm going to get on that show.
Yeah.
But I guess just the collaboration of amalgamating IHW with the IWK show, kind of thankful for that. Just kind of left one spot open for me for that particular night, so I jumped on it, and it was awesome. It was kind of one of those things where it was a little surreal to me, and I spoke to Kevin about this a few minutes after my match. It's like, I just wrestled for IHW, which is, again, for a worker, especially newer workers or lesser experienced workers, to get that opportunity just to be in the locker room with those guys, as a worker and a promoter, to see how they put their shows together. It's an eye-opener, and when you're used to being backstage with shows that are very helter-skelter, very fly by the seat of your pants. It's really cool to see something that's just kind of, okay, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, we're going to do this, and this is how it's going to flow, and everybody's going to have fun, right? Right, and it did.
Oh yeah,
so it was, yeah.
It's like a well-oiled machine.
Absolutely. And when you've done, it's just like anything else, when you've done something so many times, it does get easy.
Yeah.
And hats off to Kevin and IHW and the crew for coming in for that show. The draw wasn't as good as it was the year before, but there were some outside things that I found out afterwards. Hard to compete with a staple like the Truro exhibition, but the people that were there, I think they certainly left talking about it, and they'll be there next year.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's just a matter of looking more of the calendar of what's going on around the province to get some more people out. But the show itself was probably one of the better shows that had taken place in the Maritimes.
Yeah.
Close. I'd put it maybe the top 10. I don't know. Because actually we've done some good shows, man, so it's really hard to say it's one of the best, but bias-wise, I want to say it was. But it was a good show.
Yeah.
A lot of great guys on it.
It was cool to see guys that are normally in IHW, like the guys like Mike Hughes was there.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
He's not typically on IHW. Andre, the answer.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, the answer. Think about Andre. I don't know if you're going to edit this or not, or even if I want Andre, hi Andre. I'm a real mark for both I am going to get in trouble for this, but both gimmicks that he does. When I first met him, I thought the Kilgrave gimmick was one of the coolest things going on in maritime wrestling. And then the Tattamaga show, I was in the ring with him as the answer, and his promo and his in-ring work. It's amazing how he can just kind of separate himself and work two totally different gimmicks and pull them off so well. And he got so much heat the last show. Like, it's pretty cool when you're talking to friends back home and they're talking about how much they hate this guy, as opposed to talking to the babyface that went over. They're talking about how much they hate the heel. So couldn't have that show without Andre.
Oh, absolutely.
So that was really cool to have him there. And Mike Hughes, I mean, a staple in maritime wrestling. Yeah, a staple. Hands down, probably one of the best workers in the Maritimes, if not the best, especially for his size. I mean, he moves faster than I do, and I weigh as much as his leg.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? And not a wasted step. I mean, for a worker to sit back and watch that guy work, it's quite an eye opener. So we were privileged to have him on that show.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and there was a. But a kayfabe what it was, but there was a gesture backstage after speaking with Mike, after thanking him for being there, that I'll never forget. So that just put him in a class above everybody else that I've ever met in this business so far. So Mike Hughes, hands down, promoters, if you're looking to book a worker to build your show around, look at Mike.
For sure. So some people didn't know that. I didn't know this until after the fact, but that show was your last match.
Oh, in-ring, yeah.
Yeah, it was your last in-ring. Yeah. In-ring. So how did that all?
Well, it's again what I talked about earlier about just kind of being fairly new to the scene, not being overly experienced, and I know some of the more seasoned workers are going to hate that I say this, but when I first got involved 5 years ago, it was just I really wanted to find out if it was something that I could do. Because I grew up loving it. I was a huge wrestling mark. I loved every aspect about it, the theatrics, the psychology of a match, and not even knowing what it was at the time. You could just kind of tell what was a good match and what was a bad match, and then having the opportunity to do that and to be that was pretty surreal. And then again, always with the goal of trying to improve, which I mean, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whether it be wrestling or lawn bowling. If you don't do it with the idea of getting better every time you do it, then there's really no point doing it. But again, just being realistic, looking at a lot of these cards, there's a lot of talented workers in the Maritimes. Like the list is, I don't even want to start listing anybody. Just do the simple fact that I'm going to forget somebody that deserves to be on that list. But
even if you look at something like some of the bigger like Pete or Smith, Pete Smith.
Any promoter wants to put on a show and draw people should have Peter Smith in their posters.
You've already mentioned Mike, Gary, hands down, another great guy. I mean, he was my trainer. Yeah, Marcus Burke. You know what I mean. The list goes on and on.
Julian, Steve, Shane, James Steele, Mark Bowles.
Absolutely.
Titus, my God. I mean, Bullen. I mean, he even has a presence around here. You know what I mean? Like, there's the workers, the list of the workers, and the new guys like Justin and Connors. I mean, I haven't heard of or been to a show where they haven't been backstage, booked or not. Ryan Durnford's another one.
Hardest workers.
Yeah. Just being a part of the scene and not only getting their name out there, but their gimmick and their presence, and being very, and that's what they should do. Sorry,
it's all right.
He wants to be famous too. Yeah. But that said, with these guys that are coming up, there's even less spots, and I almost feel bad if I get booked on a show and there's only so many spots on a show, and if I get one of those spots, it's kind of leaving those guys at the wayside. And it is it's a superficial, it's a selfish business to the point where you should be happy that you got that book.
Right.
But after a couple of years with, and again, I love saying this, but I'm almost 40 years old. These guys rolling around out there and doing these high spots are in their 20s, late 20s, 30s, early 30s. A few guys that have been around that are close to my age, but they've been, or a little older, but have been around for 20 years.
Right. Yeah.
So at that point, I was just thinking that I accomplished way more than I ever expected to when I first took that first bump to having the opportunity to wrestle in my last match in my hometown. And not a lot of people knew that. And hell, not a lot of people even know who I am.
Yeah.
But, you know, the boys that matter, they knew. And there were a couple conversations about, well, you sure that's what you want to do? And I couldn't imagine it ending a better way. And I'll say this as well, any of the newer guys, or the younger guys, that have an opportunity to get in the ring with James Steele, James Liberty, what have you, he's one of those guys who just has the ability and the want to make the match. And according to me, house is haunted. Yeah, sorry about that. The only way you're going to make a match is get yourself over, get your opponent over, and yeah, my hat's off to him as well.
Yeah, I think he's very underrated. I think he's way better than he even gives himself credit.
He's a hell of a heel.
I think he's a great heel.
Yeah, he's a hell of a heel.
Yeah, and for people who never had a chance to see him in Vision Pro, yeah, like.
And his time in IHW as well. He's been around for a long time, and he's going to be around. That door is just driving me nuts. Yeah, hands down. Again, I mean, after that match, the way he made me look, he's going to be on my Christmas card list forever. You hear that? Expect a Christmas card list. Yeah, he's could have been, and you know, I was nervous going into that because I started watching some of the stuff, and I've been on a few shows with him, and he's just one of those smash mouth, in your face, point A, point B, and I'm going to be yelling at the crowd the whole time, and yeah, that was awesome. That was awesome. Yeah, I didn't have to do anything to get a pop because he got all the heat that he needed before we even touched when we get in there. So hats off.
Yeah.
Hats off to him. And promoters, book that guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Definitely book that guy.
Definitely want to see more of him.
For sure.
So what's next? Do you have any? Do you plan on staying in the wrestling business on a non-wrestling role, or there's anything you want to do in the wrestling business that?
I've done more in the wrestling business than I ever expected. And you know, when it comes to leaving anything undone, most of my, I want to say accomplishments, but when you hear what I'm saying, you understand what I mean, has been more of the backstage stuff, getting over with the boys, making sure, showing the boys the right amount of respect, and you know what, I've gotten it all back.
Right,
that's the amazing thing. And not just from the guys that I came up with or broke in with, but from the guys that have been around, well, for 20 years.
Right, yeah.
I've had the pleasure and the privilege of having the ability to speak to some of these guys.
Right.
And don't be afraid to reach out to the Mike Hugheses and the Peter Smiths. If they think you're in the business for the right reason, and again, this is just me talking, right? But they will, if you have advice, if you have a question. I don't think I've asked either one of them anything over the past 4 years that they haven't answered. And that's some, Mike in particular, when I was looking to break in, he was one of the first guys that I spoke to about it. And I was on the phone with him for almost an hour one morning before I opened my store.
Yeah.
And I mean, you just, sometimes I guess they can tell if guys are just getting in for the right reason or wrong reason, or maybe he wanted me to get in the ring and make me bust my ass until I threw up and quit. I mean, I'm sure that old school mentality is going to be there, but fast forward a number of years, it was just my last year is when I was locker room with him, and hell of an experience. And to sit back and watch him as a worker, that's the eye opener. So leaving anything undone, no, just mainly because I accomplished way more than I ever expected to. Got booked on some pretty big shows, but at the same time, most of my accomplishments were the friends I'm going to take away from.
Right.
And I mean, it's the toughest club in the world to break into.
Yeah.
But I couldn't imagine a situation in my life where if I needed one of those guys, and if I were to give them a call, that they'd probably have a list of guys that I could pick.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. Except for maybe moving day. I guess guys just don't show up when it's time to help guys move. But at that point, no, I'm more than satisfied with everything that I've done. You never say never. I mean, just like anything else. And the wrestling industry is, and again, this is just purely my opinion, is completely different than being on a hockey team or being on a baseball team or anything like that. It's the guys that actually do look for the greater good of just the business itself, as opposed to how was my last match. Mind you, I ask everybody how my last match was.